Y'all, seriously, I've been loving Danny's World, so why would I stop? Except today, I'm not gonna play the game. We're gonna do something a little bit crazy. So for those of you that don't know, inside of this game, this fandom is kind of, the best word is insane. The fandom is insane. There's a whole lot of shipping going on. So there's some type of weird stuff. And that's what we're going to get into. We're going to hope that not everyone's weird. So if you're new around here and you like Danny's World, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And I'm just going to throw on some gameplay, and I'm going to read fan fictions for you guys, and they're going to get progressively worse. Yeah, it's going to get bad. I actually haven't read any of these yet. Don't worry, they're all PG, I think. If they're not, I'll cut it out. Either way, without further ado, let's jump into it. So, this story is pretty tame. It's just called Musical Scissors That Cut Ribbon by Raisin Dazzy. The summary of this is that it was originally a joke, but then the person incorporated it into the original character's lore. So, let's jump into it. It was an average day in Garden View. Nothing too special, honestly, until a new person walked into the building. Now this building, yeah, there were typically employees, kids, and all the tunes, but this one was new. They were trainee in tune handling, which meant that a new tune would also join Garden View, which was giving mixed reactions. Ones like Goob, Scraps, Toodles, and Shelly were excited for a new friend. Flutter, Razzle Dazzle, Tisha, and Brightney were pretty neutral. Most of the main tunes were just not super caring, except for Shelly, of course. It was another tune. What did they expect? Boxin and Poppy were the only tunes to be kind of confused and anxious. Well, Poppy was confused because they hadn't got any hints there would be a new tune, and Boxin was just naturally anxious. But also some confusion leaked to his mind. Why would they even get a new tune? Was somebody getting replaced? Why would they replace one of them? Boxin's mind spun with these questions that kept hitting him harder than being punched and stabbed at the same time. He went to turn to rid his mind of his confusion, but when he did, he ran into a ball of fluff and almost fell into. He was caught. By who? Nobody but Flutter and Goob had actual fluff, or felt, or whatever on them. So who the heck grabbed him? Flutter doesn't have arms, and Boxin wouldn't immediately know if it was Goob by how tightly he'd be hugged right now. Boxin tilted his head up and saw a green face staring down at him with a confused expression. Are you okay, purple box thing? The thing? Tune? Whatever it was, it spoke and Boxin could get out was a nod before being put back on the ground. Getting a better look at this thing, he made the conclusion it was a tune. In fact, it was the new one. He shook his head, then stared back up as the tune spoke again. I'm Sismith, and you are? Oh, I was asking for his name. Boxin, I'm Boxton. He stuttered a bit, something in his stomach was churning, but he didn't dwell on the feeling and really couldn't, as he heard Poppy yell for him to start a run. I'm sorry, I have to go. Wait, maybe I could come with you? Sismith offered, rubbing his uppermost hands together. Looked back at Poppy, then back at the tall tune before nodding reluctantly. Yeah, come on. You can meet the others. Just like that, they had a full elevator, which was rare, but it was a new experience for everybody to have this tune. Maybe it wouldn't be terrible. Before Boxin could end his thought, the elevator door slammed shut, and they descended. As the elevator descended, tunes interacted as they got themselves ready. It was Poppy, Goob, Razzle and Dazzle, Boxin, Toodle, Scraps, Roger, and now Sismith. The new tune was hiding by the back of the elevator. Or trying to. Toodles was harassing him with questions about who he was, what he was, this and that, who and when. It was a mess. Boxer turned back to the elevator door as it opened and he walked out. Following him was Roger, who was holding Toodles and keeping her from harassing Sismith anymore. The elevator closed, but he was confused. He didn't see. A flash of green sped past him as Sismith walked by at the speed of Goob walking, which implied that either he had something like Razzle and Dazzle, or he was also a distractor, which meant they had barely any extractors unless it was an even floor. But that only gave them 3 out of all 8 of them. This was going to be slow. Walking around the dole place, Boxin found a machine and started working on it. Nothing new. He had gotten somewhat used to this, but this was still a little anxious for the new tune. During his mess of thoughts, he messed up the machine and the alarm blared. He turned and saw Twisted running right to him and attempted to run. He made a somewhat good distance, but was running out of speed, and the thing was gaining on him. This was not good. He was going to die. Oh, he didn't want to die. Run faster! Run faster! It's getting close! Boxin was quickly pushed out of the way as Goo grabbed the Twisted and Sismith stood in front of the purple music box looking for a million more times aggressive than before. His tail? Wait, he has a tail? That wasn't something to dwell on. Sismith's tail was on top of Boxin and hiding him until he turned and crouched. Sorry for that. The craft told me to distract that thing and bring it to him. But you were in the way. Are you hurt? Huh? Oh, no, I'm okay. Oh, that's great. Come on, the elevator's open. Sismith reached out and pointed a hand and helped Boxin up. Keeping it steady, the two dashed to the elevator and jumped in before it closed. The music box hadn't realized that they were still holding hands until he saw Razzle staring down, which made his eyes follow the mask and see he still had the tune's hand in his. Ooh. He flinched and pulled his hand away, but Sismith didn't seem to notice by how he walked around and got caught in a conversation with Goob. He shook his head and locked eyes with Razzle again, who had a more blank expression than usual. Surely that didn't mean anything, right? Yeah, it surely meant nothing. He tried to ignore the thought, but it lingered. It sat there in his mind and never left. During the floors, the deeper they got, the more common he and C-Smith were paired up until one where C-Smith was a distractor. As Boxon was watching him, he heard the sound of scissors snip and snap while C-Smith slammed his tail on the ground. The twisted he didn't even know that was behind him ran to the sound, and he watched as C-Smith ran in a circle with it. Dang, was that moth fast. Boxon drew his attention away from the scissor moth and went to a machine, but Razzle and Dazzle were already there since it was an even floor, so Dazzle was in control of the body. He stayed by them and was about to walk away, but was drawn back in by Razzle talking. So, how's that new tune? He seems really nice. The white mask smiled at Boxon, but he could almost see the corners of Razzle's mouth twitching. He was confused but responded anyways. Sismith? He's nice. He spoke, pressing hands together through sometimes felt off. He spoke, pressing his hands together, though sometimes felt off. He didn't know what though. Honestly, Razzle did seem pretty normal. Maybe her mouth was just exhausted from smiling so much. In the distraction of talking, he saw Dazzle gently headbutt Razzle with the smaller curved mask tips, and she looked down and nodded. Elevator's open. Let's go. The twins started talking, Dazzle dragging their feet and Razzle trying to push them up more forwards. Boxon hated watching this and grabbed the white one's hand and led him to the elevator. Inside the elevator, he let go of their hand and shakily smiled at them. Razzle only half smiled as her eye twitched. Yeah, that was weird. They were going up, so maybe you could ask them about it later. For now, you would leave it alone. That was a full story. That one was pretty tame. I want to start off with a nice, lighthearted story before they get weirder. I mean, when you do in the lobby, I bet these guys are talking about something weird. Oh, no, never mind. They're not being weird. I swear, just sometimes, some of the Danny's World people can be a little off. And there's nothing wrong with it. Unless you're, like, involving Toodles and Pebbles, then you're getting weird, bro. All right, let's move on. This one's called Sick for Love by Saturn0522. The summary is, Boxon has a crush on Goob, but Goob is in love with Shrimpo. Boxon hated feeling jealous. He always had hated it, and always will. Being jealous of him never helped anything and always made it worse. But he couldn't really help it being around Goob and Shrimpo. Just recently, he was talking with Poppy about something. He couldn't remember, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw Goob put a hand on the wall. He was saying something to Shrimpo, and then they kissed. Sadness and jealousy turned in his stomach, but he had to hide it. And now, he's curled up on his bed. He hated everything. Why couldn't he be Goob's? He didn't understand how Goob could fall in love with Shrimpo, one of the angriest tunes, quite literally a bully, and managed to make Shrimpo fall in love with him? He couldn't understand it, and it made him angry, sad, and, jealous. But there's nothing to be done. Boxon could only fantasize, only hope that one day he could say that he was dating Goob. He yearned for his touch, for his hugs. He loved the way he smelled, his soft and fluffy fur, his gentle and caring demeanor. Sorry. He longed to be held by Goob, to be loved. But he couldn't be loved. He couldn't help having tears slowly drip down his face as he thought about it. He shoved a pillow in his face, just crying. Like crying would make Goob magically fall in love with him. And to his dismay, a knock was delivered on his door. He stopped crying. He took his face off the pillow. Yes? Come in, he said, trying to stop sounding so raspy from crying. In came Poppy with a concerned look on her face when she noticed Boxton's teary eyes. Hey, are you okay? It looks like you've been crying, she says in a sweet, gentle voice. She walks closer to Boxton, within reaching distance. She sits down. I pause, trying to stop myself from crying. My lips quiver. I can't stop myself from shoving my face into Poppy's shoulders, crying as I hug her. She slowly hugs back, whispering reassuring words, patting him on the back. He felt sorry for subduing her to his stupid cries, but he just kept sobbing. Slowly the tears stopped flowing. He put his head back up, his face wet and red. I'll go make you something to eat, okay? But you have to tell me what's wrong after. You can't just sob on my shoulder without telling me why, she says, trying to make Boxton laugh a little bit. He doesn't. He stares absent-mindedly at his bed. Yeah, I'm sorry, Boxton says, wiping his face. Poppy gets up to leave. I love you, Boxton. I'll be back in a second, she says, leaving and closing the door. Boxton fell back into his bed, feeling ashamed, sad, angry, and jealous. So once again, that was another tame one. I'm gonna probably read one more. So I'm gonna try to find one that's like unhinged. That's still PG. Let's get weird together. Let's get. All right, boys. Here we go. I went through some pretty questionable posts before I got to this one, so I hope this one isn't too bad. This one's called "Picnic Date Late at Night." So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me drink my Sprite, and then we'll jump right on in. V and Shelly decide to go on a picnic together. They wouldn't make time to hang out for a long time. Shelly was always free. She wasn't always up to anything, unlike the Green TV, who was often busy doing her game shows. They actually came up with the idea of going out at night, a way to see the rural sky, in which Shelly got the idea that they should do a picnic as well. Maybe it was a bit strange to do a picnic at night though, but it was a thing. They both wanted this to be perfect. V, Shelly called out, the grass brushing against her legs as she went up the hill V was at. Everything was already set up as she approached her girlfriend, giving her a big hug. A huge grin was printed on her face that it could be considered contagious. Shelly, I'm glad you were able to make it on time, V said, hugging her back. Are you kidding? I've been waiting for this day for weeks, the other girl replied with glee. The ammonite shell held the hand of her girlfriend. Oh my god, excuse me. The Sprite got to me. The metal against her sandpaper-like skin, caressing it gently to make sure there wouldn't be a scratch before kissing the back of V's hand. Shelly, you're gonna get off track if you keep smothering me in affection. I want this to be amazing, V coughed out, her system slightly heating up. You don't mind it though, Shelly chirped, smiling. V rolled her eyes and scoffed playfully. You're such a tease, she nudged, just for Shelly to stick out her tongue. Oh man, this is... I need to take a shower. Shelly laid down on the soft grass on her back, leading to V doing the same thing with her arms positioned in the back of her head. You know, I never thought this day would have came, the TV said, moving one of her hands to reach the sky. I think you would even get the hints I gave you. She laughed off nervously. Hey, the way you give hints was so confusing. I didn't know if you were just trying to be friendly or not. Inviting me to move supplies isn't a clear hint. Shelly nudged her with her elbow. It worked out in the end, did it not? The other said, gazing off the night sky. Well, yeah, Shelly blushed, taking a small look at her girlfriend. V could feel her staring at her antenna doing a little twitch at the feeling. We're here to admire the night, not me. The silence filled the air after she said that. It was just them two. Crickets being heard in the background. The silent noise was so peaceful yet so loud. The small wind whistled and gusted around with its calming presence between the two, grass swaying with it. The picnic blanket rolled up on the side with the basket making noise, similar to a flag flowing around. And Shelly placed her hand on her stomach, looking up to watch the stars with V before they start setting up the picnic. I don't want this feeling to end, she murmured under her breath. I wouldn't want us to end either, a robotic voice replied bluntly. Since I'm going out of town this weekend, that's all I'm going to have, and I need to record a bunch more videos, and I also need to edit all my videos for this channel and the main channel, so that is going to be it for me. I'm glad you guys have been enjoying this. If you guys like this, I'll do it when I come back again. I think I'm going to record me reacting to some more memes, because you guys did enjoy that as well. So, either way, without further ado, that is going to be it from this Razzle and Dazzle, and I'll see you guys all again tomorrow. Peace.